Shalom, Israel. This is Bishop Nathaniel. I want you to know that you can view all our Sabbath classes live on IUIC TV. That's right, I said on IUIC TV. Download the app today. Shalom.
Hey, Shalom, Israel, Most High Christ bless. This Captain Most High again, back with another 15 minutes with the captains. We're doing a series from Out of the Heart of Men. Today's topic is the murderous spirit. The murderous spirit. We're going to show you how to overcome those evil thoughts of murder. Let's open up real quick with Mark chapter 7, verse 21.
Mark chapter 7, verse 21. For from within, out of the heart of man, proceed evil thoughts.
So what I want you men to understand is sin starts with your thoughts first. Sin starts with your false thoughts first. Let's get that in Jeremiah chapter 4, verse 22.
Jeremiah chapter 4, verse 22. For my people is foolish. They have not known me.
Read.
They are silent children, and they have none understanding.
Read.
They are wise to do evil.
So Jeremiah said God's people are wise to do evil. Those evil thoughts, that wisdom. We think of evil. Read.
But to do good, they have no knowledge.
But to do good, they have no knowledge. So we're going to give you the knowledge today to overcome the murderous spirit. Now look, let's go to Exodus chapter 20, verse 13. Let's get the law dealing pertaining to murder. So what is murder, first and foremost? Murder is the premeditated killing of one human being by another. The premeditated killing of one human being by another. And let's get the law pertaining to that. Read.
Exodus chapter 20, verse 13. Thou shalt not kill.
The scriptures say, thou shalt not kill. That's the law. Now let's get the judgment for breaking the law. Thou shalt not kill. Read. Genesis chapter 9, verse 6. Genesis chapter 9 and verse 6. We're going to show y'all the judgment for breaking the law. Thou shalt not kill.
Genesis chapter 9, verse 6. Whoso sheddeth a man's blood, by man shall his blood be shed.
So the judgment for murder is murder. God said, you murder a man, I'm going to murder you. Get that real quick in Exodus chapter 21, verse 12.
Exodus chapter 21, verse 12.
Read.
He that smiteth a man so that he die shall be surely put to death.
So that was the judgment for murder during the time of Moses. Now Christ has came, and the Lord's sacrifice is done away with. Remember when no sacrifice for murder. The only sacrifice for murder was you. You was the only sacrifice for murder. Now under Christ you can overcome that murder spirit that you battle. Now look, let's see what the spirit of murder comes from. Get 1 John chapter 3 in verse 15.
1 John chapter 3, verse 15. Whosoever hated his brother is a murderer.
It said, whosoever hated his brother is a murderer. The spirit of murder comes from hate. The spirit of murder comes from hate. Now, I know you might be like, but I ain't hating on brother such and such. But guess what hate is? Hate is the feeling of dislike so strong that it demands action. It could be a brother action that you don't like that make you want to murder him. It could be something that he done that make you want to put him to death. Look, let's sit out. Now look, let's deal with how to overcome this murderous spirit. Now look, if you battling a murderous spirit, you must learn to become tolerant. And what I mean about tolerant, forbearing, long-suffering, patient, and temperate. Tolerance. Look, let's open up real quick to Ephesians chapter 4, 1 through 3. Now, when I'm saying tolerant, I'm talking about, look, if you battle a murderous spirit, some things you're going to have to be passive about. A lot of you brothers, you know what type of stuff you've done in the world. And you know you can have a certain disdain for certain things. Now, that means accept it or allow what happens or what others do without active response or resistance. Meaning, hey, some stuff you're going to have to be passive about. You're going to have to let stuff go. Get there real quick in Ephesians chapter 4, 1 through 3. Read.
Ephesians chapter 4, verse 1.
Read.
I therefore, the prisoner of the Lord, beseech you that ye walk worthy of the vocation wherewith you are called.
So you got to walk worthy of. All of us was called into this truth to do what? A job. What is a vocation? A job. You got work to do. Read. And he said, walk worthy of the vocation where you were called. Read.
With all lowliness.
It said with all lowliness. You battle the murderous spirit, you got to become meek. Read.
And meekness.
Read.
With long suffering.
With long suffering meaning what? You got to be patient with people that trouble you. Some people gonna do things that you dislike. But guess what? You gotta sit up there and be like, man, look, I ain't worried about that. Forget that. And keep moving. Read on.
Forbearing one another in love.
Forbearing one another in love. Forbear one another in love. Forbearing is enduring. Enduring in love and what? The commandments of God. Read on.
Endeavoring to keep the unity of the Spirit.
You know what it means to endeavor to keep the unity of the Spirit? It means to go above and beyond your abilities. To do all in your power to, read that again.
Endeavoring to keep the unity of the Spirit.
Endeavor to keep the unity of the Spirit. Read.
In the bond of peace.
So you got to do whatever you can with all your might to keep the bond of peace amongst brethren. Get there real quick in Colossians chapter 3, verse 13.
Colossians chapter 3, verse 13. Forbearing one another and forgiving one another. If any man have a quarrel against any, even as Christ forgave you.
See that? Say, forbearing one another and forgiving one another. Forbearing, politely or patiently restrain an impulse to do something. Refrain. Refrain. So you got to restrain those impulses. Forbearing one another. And what it say?
And forgiving one another.
And forgiving one another. So you got to learn to become tolerant. Yeah, you're going to have to tolerate a lot of things when you in this truth, brother. You're going to have to tolerate a lot of things when you in this truth, sister. Read on.
If any man have a quarrel against any.
It said, any man have a quarrel against any, read.
Even as Christ forgave you.
As Christ forgave you, read.
So also do ye.
So also do ye. So you gotta become tolerant, forbearing, long-suffering, patient, temperate. Get real quick in Ecclesiastes chapter 28, verse 7. Remember, y'all, the spirit of murder comes from hatred. And what is hatred? The feeling of dislike. So strong that it demands action. So you got to be able to tolerate things, y'all. You got to be forbearing. Read that.
Ecclesiastes chapter 28, verse 7.
Read.
Remember the commandments.
It say, remember the commandments, read.
And bear no malice to thy neighbor.
Don't bear no malice towards your neighbor. They have evil intentions. Read.
Remember the covenant of the heights.
Remember the covenant that the Lord made with Abraham, Isaac, Jacob, and the 12 tribes of the nation of Israel. Read.
And wait at ignorance.
It says wait at ignorance meaning what? You got to overlook your neighbor's thoughts. You got to overlook things if you want to overcome that murderous spirit. You got to be forbearing if you want to overcome that murderous spirit. You got to be passive if you want to overcome that murderous spirit. Let's go to Luke chapter 21, verse 19. Luke chapter 21, verse 19. Listen to this. You got to learn patience. You got to be patient if you want to overcome that murderous spirit. Read.
Luke chapter 21, verse 19. In your patience possess ye your soul.
Right, and in your patience possess ye your soul. You got to learn to be patient. All of this stuff comes from being tolerant. You got to be able to tolerate certain things that you don't like, that you think that demands action. Read 2 Corinthians chapter 6, verse 4. 2 Corinthians chapter 6, verse 4.
2 Corinthians chapter 6, verse 4. But in all things, approving ourselves as the ministers of God, in much patience.
In much patience, read.
In afflictions.
And afflictions, read.
In necessities.
And necessities.
In distresses.
You see that? So we got to sit up there. We got to become more patient. Especially with our afflictions, our distresses. Get there real quick in Titus chapter 2, verse 2. Titus chapter 2, verse 2. So what we talking about today, y'all? Overcoming the murderous spirit. Overcoming the murderous spirit. Read.
Titus chapter 2, verse 2. That the aged men be sober, grave, temperate.
It said that the temperate, what is temperate? Self-control. Self-control. You got to learn to be temperate. A lot of our brothers and sisters can't control themselves. You got to learn to be temperate. You got to learn to be tolerant if you want to overcome that murderous spirit. Read.
Sound in faith.
Sound in faith. Do you believe in God? Do you believe what the word say? The word say, thou shalt not kill. The Lord said you got to be long-suffering. Meaning you got to be continued to be patient with something that's troubling you. Something that you hate. Something that you don't like. We hate that our people in slavery. But we can't go out here and go on a murder spree. Read.
In charity, in patience.
This it right there? It's saying charity and in patience. Go from there real quick to Ecclesiastes chapter 2, verse 14. I'm going to show you what it says about what the scriptures say about a brother and sister that loses patience. Read.
Ecclesiastes chapter 2, verse 14. Woe unto you that have lost patience.
It says, woe to you that has lost patience. Woe unto you that has lost patience. So let's sit up there and say you lose patience and you go out here and do something evil. You destroy your life. You're not getting the kingdom of God. Or you sit up there to try to do something evil to somebody and it ends up happening to you. It says, woe unto them that lost patience. Get there real quick in Ecclesiastes chapter 20, verse 32.
Ecclesiastes chapter 20, verse 32. Necessary patience in seeking the Lord.
You see that we got to have necessary patience. Patience is necessary when you're seeking the Lord, read.
It's better than he that leadeth his life without a guide.
It says it's better than he that live his life without a guide. Guess who's our guide? Christ is our guide. Christ came and walked this earth and showed us how we should do it. Remember the scripture say he was left an example to us what we should do. Matter of fact, get that real quick in 1 Peter 2 and 21. Because I think I'm quoting it wrong.
1 Peter chapter 2, verse 21. For even hereunto were ye called, because Christ also suffered for us.
It say Christ also suffered for us, read.
Leaving us an example.
No, he was the example. He was the guide, read.
That ye should follow his steps.
We should follow his steps. Was Christ a murderer? No. Did Christ have the murderous spirit? No. Let's get there real quick in Wisdom of Solomon chapter 8, verse 7. So in order to overcome those murderous thoughts, you got to learn to become tolerant. And when tolerance comes, forbearing, long-suffering, patient, and temperance. You look all of these definitions up. Forbearing, long-suffering, patience, and temperance. Look all of that up and you apply it. Read.
Wisdom of Solomon, chapter 8, verse 7. And if a man love righteousness.
It said, for man, do you love righteousness? Do you love God? Do you love the commandments of God? Read.
Her labors are virtues.
Do you love her labors of virtues? Read on.
For she teaches temperance.
It says, for she teaches temperance. She teaches self-control. Read.
And prudence.
And prudence. That's it on it?
Justice and fortitude.
And fortitude. Now go from there real quick to Titus chapter 1, verse 8. So that's why I opened up in the beginning. I said, look, if you battling them murderous thoughts and that murderous spirit, you got to remember the love that you got. You got to remember the law and the love that you got for the Father. Read.
Titus chapter 1, verse 8. But a lover of hospitality, a lover of good bid, sober, just, holy, temperate.
Temperate. What is temperance? What it means to be temperate? Self-control. Self-control. So if you battle these thoughts and you want to overcome them, these are the things that you got to apply to your life to overcome their murderous spirits. But that is where we're going to say shalom.
We used to scream black power while heroin was pushed. But at the end of the day, nothing's in vain. IUIC has been given a vision. The tents of Judah has risen. Many has attempted the mission. Minor murmuring, omitting, and missing the mark. Just reading that he had the flame of fire in his eyes gave us the spark. We on Paul's mission. We out on the road, purple and gold, from Mexico, Cuba, Haiti, Ghana, Sierra Leone. 144,000 boots banging, concrete crackling. These are our men repented at heart. The scriptures is proof. IUIC, we deliver the truth.